By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to know, from wasting 3/4 of your day on sales calls, dealing with tire kickers who were never going to buy anyway, handling objections from people who just shouldn't be on the calendar to begin with, and wasting your time doing something deep down you know you shouldn't be doing anymore. You just don't know how to get yourself out of this. 2, hiring a commission-based sales rep who's a killer to close all of your deals and drive more revenue and more sales for your business. I'm going to be giving you exactly what you need to do step by step to finally delegate this part of your sales to someone who knows what they're doing and close new customers far above KPI and isn't some random guy who's spamming your DMs trying to be your next high ticket closer who you know you wouldn't actually be giving your best leads to that you're paying your hard-earned money for. So if you're tired of working in your business and want to start working on your business, then stick around to the end of this video and you'll have everything you need to know to make that happen. I think the first thing that we need to cover here is, do you actually need one? Like, is it actually necessary? And I think a good kind of benchmark to knowing if this is the case or not is knowing a couple things. Number one is like your fulfillment capacity. Like, if you run an email marketing agency for e-com brands, and if you take on one more client, you're maxed out, you obviously don't need a closer because they can close one deal and then not know what to do with the rest of their time. Assuming you have the fulfillment capacity to bring on a good amount of clients, if you're at closer to about 40 calls at least per month on average, ideally closer to like 70, 100, you know it's time to bring on a closer. Another good benchmark to look for is about a 30% close rate, because you as the founder, you should be able to close a little bit better than this person if you're naturally good at sales. If you're a founder that's not the best at sales, someone could come in there and do better than you month one. It's just usually unlikely because there's so much trust with the founder and you usually know the fulfillment and the background of how you actually get results with people at such depth, it's easy for you to close even if you suck at sales. So if it's not at a 30% close rate and you are the founder, you probably need to change the process of getting the right leads on the calendar before you bring on a closer so you don't set them up to fail. But if you're booking 40-ish calls or more, you have the fulfillment capacity and you're closing at above 30%, I would say it's time and you have the capacity to bring one on. And one thing I'll say is that the average revenue of businesses that we place sales reps for is about 400 to 500 grand a month. And a lot of limiting beliefs that we get from businesses that are like less than 100 grand a month, like 50 grand a month, 70 grand a month, that we commonly get is, no one can close like me. Well, I promise you've never got 200 applications for closers. And if you did, you would be like, holy shit, there's so many people on planet Earth that are better at sales than me. So that's just a limiting belief and you've never recruited hard enough to prove yourself wrong. Another common limiting belief is, well, I need to have a pulse on sales to know what's going on at that level. And that's just not true either. Because ultimately what you need to do is you need to transfer from a mind state of being boots on the ground, the guy doing all the work, and transition into more of a manager mindset of someone who can actually manage sales talent, because that is the skill set that's limiting you and keeping you around 50 grand a month when you could be doing 200, 250, 300 grand a month. If you know how to manage sales talent, it's a very valuable skill from taking you from where you're at right now to where you could and need to be. At the end of the day, if you want to grow your business, you have to get off the phone. Yes, cash and sales is the bloodline of the business. It's what keeps things alive, and it can be daunting to let that go. But the second you see Stripe screenshots coming through and you don't even know who the person is who's paying you, and you can do deep work on your business that actually moves the needle instead of getting no-showed by prospects all day, every day, you'll realize this is true. Get off the phones and your business is going to grow exponentially. Now that you know you're at the level your business needs to be to hire a rep and your limiting beliefs have now vanished, you need to create a job description in what I like to call a 4R document. I'm going to flash on the screen real quick a 4R doc that we use for the closers in our internal business, hiresalesreps.io, and the closing Bible. But basically what it breaks down is their KPIs, the expectations out of them as far as doing admin work, showing up to meetings, different stuff like that, how their pay works, the commission structure for them, the time commitment that is necessary, the character traits that are necessary to crush it in the role, who they're going to report to, and different things like that. It ultimately just makes your business look so much more official and the role looks so much more well put together. You'll attract a higher level of talent by building out things like that. And not to mention, if you ever get in a sticky situation with a hire where they're not filling out end of day reports or they're not showing up to sales team meetings, this is what you can look back at because you're setting proper expectations when they come into the role. So build a 4R doc. Now it's time to source some candidates. It's time to start recruiting. One of the best places you can look for closers is referrals and your network, without a doubt. Go to all the masterminds that you're in, go to all your business owner friends that you know, and ask them for the best sales rep that they've ever met and say that you're hiring a closer and you want them on your team. I literally just got a text from one of my business owner friends friends that says, hey, I have the best setter in the world. Are you hiring? Please, I want him on your team. That's where you're gonna find the best people by far, bar none. Another great place to look is sales recruiters. People that have large pools of sales talent where you could pick the cream of the crop of the talent out of that talent pool. So instead of trying to go and generate 100, 200 applications on your own when you're not used to doing sales recruiting and different things like that, you can just tell them exactly what you're looking for and they'll give you the top 10 people that meet that criteria and you can just interview them and then make a hiring decision. It takes a lot of the work out of this, and ultimately hiring the right salesperson could be a big difference maker in how much money you make in your business. It's worth the money. And I do own HireSalesRep.io. We are a sales recruiting company. We do that very thing for you at a super low cost. So I didn't mean to show, but here I am. Another great place to look is your client base. So believe it or not, your customers who have got great results from your service might love your company so much that they're willing to come work for you. This depends a little bit on the type of business that you have, but I would highly recommend looking inside your client base. And then lastly, there are Facebook groups where it's like hire high ticket closers, and there's a lot of them in there. Most of them suck. Some of them are okay. So you can go there. Or if you happen to have a personal brand, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, go on your email list, go on different places like this and post about the job. The goal in doing this recruiting is to get minimum 50 applications unless you're hiring from a recruiter. You have to do volume to find the right people. And I see far too many business owners only get about 10 applications and then just pick the one that sucks the least. And then they have to fire them within a month and restart the whole process. Spend some time and money on recruiting. It will pay off. Next, we got our applicants. Now, what do we do with them? So out of the 50 applicants that you got, you want to invite 8 to a group interview. We do group interviews on purpose because it's a strange social dynamic and it's interesting to see how a closer navigates this situation where they should thrive socially if they're good at sales. A huge benefit to this is it actually builds hype around the closer role and your company as a whole. If you hop on and you say, hey guys, thanks for coming on. We had 60 applications. You guys were lucky enough to be one of the 8 to make it here. I'm only going to be hiring one person. They're like, holy shit, there's a lot of demand for this. Like, this must be a really great role, a really great company. Man, they're very well put together. There's 7 other people who want this too. Holy shit, man, some of these other people are really good. So if I step into this role and I don't perform, one of these guys are going to take my job. So group interviews are awesome. They build the status of your company. Make sure to not do round robin questions. As in, don't say, what made you want to work for my company? And then have all the other 7 people repeat the exact same answer that the other person said. Highly recommend get yourself an iPad and write down 4 questions and then just kind of map them all out for each person. You have about 32 questions. That can take up about an hour. And when I first step into the interview, what I always say is basically the reason for hiring in the first place, a little bit about the company and sell them on the company vision and where the company is going, where it's headed, and then start off the questions by basically saying, just say real quick who you are and a little bit about your sales background, make it brief. And then just see who goes first and how they kind of navigate that social interaction. You'll notice about halfway through, about 30 minutes into this hour-long interview, there's gonna be clear outliers and clear people where you're like, why the fuck did I invite this person to an interview? And that's okay. I would recommend narrowing it down to the best 3 people at the end of the interview. And then after that, invite them to a one-on-one interview the next day. You need to send them the setter script and tell them to study it because you're going to be doing mock calls with them. Once you get on the one-on-one, you're going to have more questions for them naturally because you actually can speak with them in a one-on-one setting. So that's when you can get a little bit deeper on their finances, the culture that they're looking for in the specific company, why they got fired or why they quit previous roles. Really what you want to do is spend about a third of this one-on-one on your questions to them, a third of the interview doing this mock call. And notice I said setter script. So whether you're hiring a setter or you're hiring a closer, still use the setter script because ultimately if you do a closer script, it's going to take way too much time and you want to be conscious of time here because if you're hiring a closer, it's probably because you're busy as hell and you don't have time to spend 5 hours doing all these interviews. The third thing that you're going to do is you're going to run them through that 4-hour doc. So you're going to talk about the pay. You're going to talk about everything necessary to crush it in the role, the sales team meeting cadence, obligations that they're going to need to have, the character traits that's going to make someone win in this role, the whole 4-hour doc. You're going to just screen share, run them through the whole thing. And then after that, you're going to let them ask you questions because at the end of the day, now that you've sold them on the role a little bit, you know that they're probably a good fit for the role. Now you obviously have to let them ask questions about your company and the role so that they decide if it's a good fit for them as well too. This is just going to set the best expectations for them so that way they stay for the long term in your company. At the end of the day, you need to know how much time you have to pour into this person. If you have very little time to pour into this person, you need someone with the most transferable background and skills and knowledge necessary. So if I'm an email marketing agency for e-com brands, hopefully this person has sold for an email marketing agency for e-com brands, or a paid ads agency for e-com brands, or they've ran an email marketing agency, or they've ran an e-com brand before and they've also closed before, that's going to make the learning curve for this the smallest. So you have to pour less time into onboarding and training this individual because they know everything from day one. And where you can get the arbitrage on labor is if you have the time to pour into someone and then you build them up a little bit to crush it in the role, they're going to be so loyal to you that they'll stay for the long term. They'll do some things that other hires probably wouldn't do for you, and they'll just be loyal and committed to you and your company, and they'll stick through a bunch of shit that happens because businesses have ups and downs. Now let's talk about how to onboard this person, how to train this person, and ultimately how to structure the deal and the comp, because that is important too. We got to protect our margins and we got to give this person upside. So when it comes to hiring, closers should be getting anywhere from 10 to 15%. If you have a monthly recurring service, like an agency service, it's like $5,000 a month, give them 15 or maybe even 20% of that first month. You don't want to give them recurring commissions. If it's just a one-time service and it's relatively high ticket, just give them 10%, maybe 12%. Most companies just give closers 10% commission. When it comes to setters, anywhere from about 2.5% to 6% commission is what is normal. I will say that typically about 4% commission and maybe a little bit of a base is probably the most common. Where you go lower on commission, you tend to increase your base pay. And where you go higher on commission, you can go no base pay completely. And setter comp varies heavily dependent upon you and your company. So comment below any questions you might have about setter comp. Now, once you get them onboarded, there's a couple things you need to run them through so that way they know what's going on before they start hopping on calls with their potential clients. Spend the time to make a good onboarding, because every call they hop on where they don't close a deal, it's costing you $5,000, $10,000 depending upon the price of your service, and it can cost you $100,000 to half-ass this onboarding. So here's what to put into it. Make an avatar doc, which is basically who do we close, who do we not close, who's our ideal client, who is not our ideal client. What you don't want to have happen is for them to not know who should be closed and who shouldn't be closed, and then you can't get results for these people, and then you have a bunch of chargebacks and a bunch of refunds. That's not fun. So build an avatar doc. Who do we close? Who do we not close? Secondly, offer deliverable for the same reason. They need to know what they're actually selling to people. So build a doc with the price points of your service, any payment plans you may or may not have, and every single deliverable of that service so they know the service like the back of their hand. Next thing is going to be previous call recording. If you're not recording your calls, don't hire a closer yet. Record your calls every single time without fail. And what you want to do as far as the actual calls that you send to them is I would send in about 90% of closed deals, because you don't want to train them on how to do it wrong. You want to train them on how to do it right. It's almost like mental priming. Like, man, this is easy. I can just close anyone. Man, these leads are awesome. Man, this is easy. This is exactly how to do it. Man, look how this person responded to this. Look how they handled this objection. This is how we do it. Where I see a lot of business owners go wrong is they put a bunch of not closed deals and then they just learn how to do the wrong shit. And that's not good. Next, take them through a script run through. So basically give them the script. And then if you have the time, it's not necessary, make a script walkthrough video, basically breaking down the questions and how it's structured and why it's structured that way and why we're asking those questions. Because I'm sure you've felt sales reps before where they basically just have very empty words that they're giving off in the sales call. And it's because they're just reading off of a script and they don't know why it's there in the first place. But if you get a bad answer to a question in the script and you know why it's there, then you would know that you didn't get your answer. So understanding the why behind why the script is structured how it is helps sales reps have a deeper understanding of the sales call and the sales process. And then lastly, just like frequently asked questions. I'm sure there's very common objections and very common questions and very common confusions with your service. So write them all out and put all the answers in and just put it on a Google Doc. Next, let's talk about the first 30 days of being a sales rep on the team. The first 3 days should be just going through the onboarding, hopping on the sales team meetings, and then hopping on a one-on-one daily. We're going to be doing a 30-minute one-on-one daily for the first 30 days of being in the company. I know that may sound like overkill, but when you talk about the opportunity cost of lost money by this person not being ramped up to KPI, it's worth it tenfold. For that Thursday and Friday of the first week, you're gonna have them shadow calls. So you're gonna be on the sales call, you're gonna have them sitting in Zoom. One little pro tip here, you can literally have them change their name to note taker and just say they're a virtual assistant that just takes notes for you. And they can just be a fly on the wall, camera off, mic off, they're just listening in. And then afterwards, after the call, you can debrief them on what you were doing and why. Once I do 2 days of this, they'll be ready the next Monday to start taking calls. For that Monday, Tuesday, it's not necessary, but if you have the time and the capacity, shadow 2 days of their calls and then finally let them be. If not, more than fine, it may be overkill if they already know what's going on. You're gonna be doing your weekly sales team meetings that you would be doing anyway, and a one-on-one with them for 30 minutes every single day. And what you need to be doing in these one-on-ones is a variation of call review, role play, or training them on a specific thing that they're doing wrong. Let's talk about something that's probably not enjoyable for anyone. How to fire sales reps. So ultimately, you just have to get over having this tough conversation with sales reps. I fired 30 sales reps in my lifetime at least. It sucks. It's not fun. It's not fun for them. It's not fun for you. But if it's costing your business money, they're not enjoying it either. You may as well just end the pain with a little bit more pain. So here's how we do this. When I onboard a new sales rep and I take them through the 4-hour doc, I let them know that hitting KPI is 20 closed deals per month. However, it's obviously their first month. They shouldn't be operating at peak capacity the first 30 days in the business, but they could operate at 50% capacity. So we set it to be 10 closed deals month 1. So whatever your KPI is, it may be different for your business, and that's more than fine. Whatever they should be at full capacity when they're knowing what's going on, half of that is what they have to hit by the end of month 1 or they get fired. So just let them know that day 1. And then from there, it's just feast or famine. They're either gonna crush it or they're not. So at the end of the day, it's best to just over communicate what a good job is, what a bad job is, and what is like a fireable offense. If I don't see XYZ numbers, you will be fired. Just let them know that day 1, and then do good at tracking data. So the data tells you to fire them, not you being the asshole telling them that they need to be fired. And then when it comes to actually approaching how to fire someone and like what that actually looks like, bring them into a meeting. And when you invite them to the meeting, don't blindside them. Hey, Garrett, we need to talk. Let's get in a call. Are you free at 4? Be direct, be to the point, be blunt. So they might be like, oh shit, what is this? So that maybe expect it a little bit. Okay. Make the conversation very short, very direct. Don't start off the call being like, hey dude, what's going on? What's up, buddy? Crack a joke. Don't do any of that shit. You're just gonna blindside them even harder. So just start off the call by saying, hey Garrett, this is gonna be a really hard conversation. You're probably not gonna feel too good about my decision, but I wanna let you know that my decision is final. We are going to be letting you go, and we're gonna be letting you go for these reasons. What I wanted to see was this, and what I actually saw was this. And moving forward in your next roles or your next jobs or your next whatever, I think if you do these things that I didn't see, you're gonna thrive in your career. Ultimately, I wanna give you a little bit of space here. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything about what I just broke down to you? Do you wanna say goodbye to the team? If so, I won't deactivate your email until the end of tomorrow. Post a message in Slack. Make sure you drop your socials. I hope you win. I hope we stay connected, yada, yada. Or if it was ugly, obviously you don't have to lie. But if you actually care about the human being, I would say those things. And then ultimately just let them know that the decision is final when you're having this conversation. Nothing is worse for them begging to have their job back and you being kind of iffy on the decision, and then you kind of let them in, and then you have to fire them again after you already tried to fire them. It's terrible. And I'm saying this because I've done it before. So that's exactly how you hire a commission-based sales rep. This is the same process we use to hire closers for our clients' companies that helps them scale to 7 and even 8 figures and really enable them to work on higher level stuff inside their businesses. Of course, I'm sure if you just took all of this advice in this YouTube video, you could hire a closer in the next 7 days and be off to the races. But if we're being honest, it's a lot of work to generate enough applications to hire the right person, interviewing them, hiring them, onboarding them, and ultimately, if they don't perform, firing them. And that's only if you know what good even looks like. Or you could just take our proven process that we've used to staff over 253 sales reps into 7 and 8 figure businesses, where we have all the right benchmarks, KPIs, sales reps that come from a variety of different industries. Whatever your business is, we have the right reps for it. So that way you can just get this right the first time and not have to deal with all the trial and error that is way too costly. So if you know you need commission-based sales reps inside your business, we will place a proven A-player sales rep inside your business in the next 7 days. And if they don't perform and hit KPI, we will replace them entirely for free. If it's specifically for you and why we can make such a crazy guarantee, then click the link in the description to learn more about this. It'll take you to our landing page. You could watch our VSL, learn how the offer works, check out all of our case studies, and then book a call to speak with me directly.